Hey everybody, I'm Zoe.
And I'm Chandi.
And welcome back to another episode of Bound by the Cloak. Back in season 1, we did an episode about single motherhood by choice. And if you haven't listened to it, you should. It's episode 2, titled Just Me and You. We decided to look a lot more into the world of sperm donations and sperm banks, and did a lot more research. We came to realize that there's this whole other world of sperm donation. There are websites, Facebook groups, and more for people that do private, direct sperm donations.
I mean, I think we kind of went down a rabbit hole because this was something that neither of us anticipated. It was unexpected, but, we can understand it because of talking to different sorts of people and understanding how difficult it is to be a recipient at a sperm bank, that people are kind of willing to go through different methods, meet with random people, have a kid.
I mean, I think that what we learned is that it's a lot more complicated than just saying, I'm going to go have a kid with sperm donated and made available to a sperm bank. And we were surprised to learn as much as we did. In addition to looking further into sperm banks and donations, we wanted to talk about the experience of a donor and being a biological child of a donor. I remember we talked about the movie Delivery Man with Vince Vaughn. If you haven't seen it, it's I like it. I don't know, I think it was pretty funny. But Vince Vaughn plays a guy that has donated to a sperm bank quite a bit when he was younger. And it turned out that the sperm bank used his sperm way too much. So there wound up being a ridiculous amount of biological children that were his. And it's about his relationship to them and kind of trying to find them and them seeking him out. So it was a really interesting film. So yeah, the movie is also based on a true story. So we decided to look into what happens when a person donates pretty frequently and winds up with numerous biological children. Not all donors want to be contacted, and many remain anonymous. For some people, however, they're more open to contact with biological children, or the children are more open to contact with their biological father. We really wanted to know how this impacts the lives of the donors and the children, and what are the ramifications of this?
Yeah, I think it seems like it's more uncommon that the biological father would want to even entertain a conversation.
Yeah.
Because in most cases they want to be anonymous.
Yeah.
Like the sperm donor wants to be anonymous.
So in today's episode, we bring to you 2 unique stories. In part 1, we speak with John, who donates sperm privately and independently. He's been doing this for a while, and he's gotten pretty good at it. He loves helping people create families, and the best part is that he does this for free.
In the second part of today's episode, we had a great chat with Nate Mays, who is the biological child of a sperm donor. And what's so interesting about Nate's story is that he's one of the very few that has a relationship with his biological dad.
So here's part 1 of today's episode. Let's hear from John.
Well, John, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I guess if you could just go into, how you got into donating sperm and what your process is.
So, initially I was looking through some Facebook groups like Sperm Donor USA and California Sperm Donors. And so I kind of joined some of the groups, and that's how I sort of started to look for people, women who I could, donate to. And so then I went on to look for forums. One of them is called Known Donor Registry. So, that's it's kind of like social media, but for recipients and donors. And so you find egg donors, you find embryo donors. And, you also see the diversity of I guess, member types, because you find people who are recipients and donors. The vast majority are actual recipients who are actually, looking for donors themselves. And of course, they often is the case is they have a partner, who will be the other parent. I mean, later on, I did find out about an app called Just a Baby, and Just a Baby is kind of like Tinder, but for donors in a way.
In terms of sperm donation, there are two different avenues that you can go about it. So you can go through a sperm bank, or you can go through a direct donor.
So donating at a sperm bank involves physically going down to the sperm bank and donating more than once. There would be a series of donations that you would be required to do. Versus doing direct private sperm donation, which means that somebody might get in contact with you, or you might get in contact with somebody else, and you sort of work it out so that the guy will donate his sperm directly to them and there's no middleman.
For me, it's both been most often the case that AI. I haven't really donated so often with clinics because with me, the freezing process is not really that favorable with my sperm, of course. Fresh is often much more better in general. And, the whole process of like seeing how many of your sperm will survive the cryopreservation or whatever, that does contribute to certain portion of men being taken out, because the sperm can't survive that process. I mean, it's quite rough. So, with apps and different Facebook groups, that makes it a whole lot easier for people to just simply go right over and talk with the donor themselves, rather than having a middleman like her clinic, and they store little profiles of the donors, and they have them like donate in there, and then they might freeze the semen and have a sample going through all this process in order for a woman to then later on come in and receive the specimen.
So there are two different ways that sperm can be inseminated. One is through natural insemination, or NI, and the other is through artificial insemination, or AI. Natural insemination is when the sperm donor and the recipient have bodily contact or unprotected sex. Artificial insemination is when the sperm donor provides a semen sample to the recipient. And then the sperm would be inserted into the recipient's vagina, up to the cervix, usually during or around ovulation.
I've mostly done it AI, and that involves basically where a guy obviously he's given a soft cup, and then the woman maybe uses a syringe or something to insert the semen all the way into the vagina until very, very close to the cervix. And that's been very effective. I've known that that method is equally effective with natural insemination, sexual intercourse. Maybe some men might lie and say, well, it's more effective. Well, no, the guy's probably saying bullshit. He doesn't know what he's talking about, or just simply straight lying to you if he says so. So most of the women I've met don't want any physical contact. Maybe some of them are asexual too. So you see diversity of women, but what all of them share in common is obviously is that they don't have a man to help them get pregnant, and so they require that assistance, and that's where I come in. And I'm actually going to donate to women later on today too, as well. So I kind of do this quite often.
How often throughout the year do you do it?
It's kind of hard to count, but so far I've had success like 7 times this year.
So what motivates you to do this?
Well, you could say that I simply like the idea of seeing part of me live in a different person. Like a person has half of my DNA.
You said there are Facebook groups and there's websites. How do they operate? So like the Facebook group, is it sort of like people just make a posting and people respond to it?
Yeah. I mean, you find donors who post an ad for themselves, and also recipients who say, "Hey, I want a donor. I live in this area." They might be, some of them might not be quite picky. Some of them might be like, "Well, I want a donor with green eyes or blue eyes." Well, I'm not a blue-eyed or green-eyed person.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah, people want what they want for whatever reason, and you do whatever you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the websites, are those like, is that a situation where there's like a profile? Everybody has like a profile and then they get to like kind of choose, or how does that work?
Yeah. And so you have the option to put your location. And what I do often on this, for example, I'm actually on KDR just right now. Yeah, it's called knowndonorregistry.com. And of course, that website is also pretty useful because it has different blog posts that guides you on how home submission works, and it gives you more detail. Such as, of course, you shouldn't wait too long for the semen to be used, because if you wait too long, obviously the sperm will die. Because sperm, they're not meant to live that long outside. The point of AI is to basically replicate, the mechanisms of sexual intercourse without the physical contact. Shipping, it could work, but it has a lower chance of success, which is why I would prefer to travel.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the shipping. Yeah.
Yeah. Shipping. Yeah, you have to like use a TYB, which is textual buffer, and then you have to like use like cool packs, and I mean that like I said, that has a chance to work. Maybe in the cases where it works, but it's too it get kind of complicated, and it's not quite simple. Simply delivering it fresh, right away to be used without any problems of preparation and doing all that just to ship it. So yeah, for me, it's definitely fresh. And I mean, there has only been like maybe a couple of times where I did, and one example, of course, was a woman who was living in my city. I think she's a teacher. And so her husband had a vasectomy, and she told me that her husband and her, they regretted that decision. So I said, I'll do it. No problem. Yeah, I went there and he seemed pretty nice and pretty chill. Okay. So, she gave me some food, I guess, and then I went to the room, the deed was done, and then I watched it all. So now I know that that woman, she has a new baby. So they already had a daughter. So now she has a brother, I guess, going to be born very soon, I think. So that went well.
Oh.
And it worked the first try.
Could you tell us what your first interaction with somebody who was coming to, what do you even call them?
Recipients?
Yeah. Could you tell us what your first interaction was with a sperm donor recipient?
Yeah, funny enough, it was just shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic came around. So I was in university, it was 2019. And so I was messaging a woman. And so, we were chatting, and, I saw her in a group. It was a Facebook group. And I just shared them pictures because, of course, she wanted to know how I look. And so she got them. And I told her, how tall I was, 6'3", and that sort of thing. And then she eventually met me in person, and she parked in front of in my place. And I just came out, and then she just gave me the cup. Rushed to the bathroom, did it right then and there, and she got pregnant when I did like that. It was just like one time. It was like once or twice in a week. But it was just the first cycle, and it worked. It was a very pleasing event for me. I was new at this, but I like doing it.
Are you ever like nervous, or have you done it so many times that you kind of have it down to a science, go and do your thing?
Yeah, I do have it get down to science. Of course, the concern I have with some women that I met is that they were not sincere. So they lied about why. I mean, so they weren't real recipients. They were just women who tricked men who wanted, an eye, I guess. So said, hey, we'll do an eye. So they're kind of setting up a trap. And also one thing that I would want to maybe further motivate me is that I'm the only child of my mother. So there's no one else from whom she will get any descendants at all.
So does she know about being a sperm donor?
Well, she had some knowledge in the beginning where I kind of blurted it out, but she was not happy. So I kind of just shut up and didn't want to mention it anymore.
Are you from a religious background? Is that possible?
Yeah. Okay. I was raised in a Catholic household, so clearly I'm doing many things that go against the grain as far as what she was taught and how things should be done. she was taught, children within a marriage. I kind of see marriage as something I would look forward to in the future.
What do you see as a positive of donating sperm the way that you do versus going to a sperm bank?
Well, one of the things is that you don't have to go through some of the screening process. There's this rigorous process that a lot of men can't pass general like requirements. And I was looking at a website that was talking about some facts about being a donor. For example, I got the information from the Phoenix Sperm Bank. And for example, it says they say that donors in the program are of different shapes and sizes. But the thing is that women are quite selective, and that women are choosing donors with certain characteristics that they favor, they see as good. And a lot of women, they might not even want to make a child with a man who's short. That's just not something that's generally favorable by a lot of women. And of course, per the FDA says that tissue donors are ineligible. So these are requirements that might discourage the men from being donors. And in my case, I don't have those issues as much. Yeah, and they have an age limit. So all donors must be between 18 and 39. Some donors, in my case, might be 40. So, they don't feel that they have to be a certain age to donate.
So with these two very different forms of donations, why might someone choose to go through a private donor versus a sperm bank? Well, with a sperm bank, you have a lot of criteria that you need to meet as a recipient. It can take a very long time to get on the wait list and to find a donor themselves. Not only does the recipient have to jump through a lot of hoops, but also the sperm donor themselves. Sperm donors have very specific criteria that they need to meet to even be eligible to donate their sperm at a sperm bank.
So there are a number of different factors that can affect your eligibility to be a sperm donor at a sperm bank. So some of these factors might be your age, your height, medical history, education, any fertility issues that you may have had, and honestly, even more. And each sperm bank can be different. Each sperm bank can have different requirements for sperm donors. So sperm banks test for hundreds of different genetic disorders just to make sure that really serious genetic or medical disorders don't get passed along to the child.
With me, of course, I have to provide my own STI testing results, for women who want to make sure that they don't get infected and, pass on. Maybe they don't want a donor who would pass on some certain genetic disorders. Some people have even being called sperm banks as a form of eugenics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too.
Yeah. I mean, I did see a paper on the ethics of sperm donor because, I mean, with this kind of thing, there's some ethical things that people might consider. Some things might be, of course, where the donor might prefer to be anonymous. Some people might think, well, maybe what if the child wants to know the identity of the father? Well, I mean, you could try to track him, I guess, if you want. I mean, but maybe that will be kind of rude, and some donors might be motivated by money. Simply want to make some quick bucks, and there they go. But with me, money has never been the motivation because, well, I'm only trying to make babies, I guess, and help women. But yeah, I mean, I've done it for free. So clearly, I don't see money as the primary motive for me, at least. And of course, sperm banks differ in their selection of sperm donors. All are highly selective, but some of them are more so than others. For example, California Bank only accepts donors who attend or have graduated from a major 4-year university. Some men might lie about their education, and that's a way that they might be chosen, or perhaps. Some men might not be totally honest about their mental health.
Yeah, it seems like you have a goal and you kind of do whatever needs to be done to make that goal happen. What is something that kind of took you by surprise about the whole process that you never had really thought about before?
Well, I guess some people were saying that they were fearful that I would go after their children or something, that I would request parental rights. And I'm like, what? I mean, wasn't the whole point of this that I'm not gonna be dealing with children? I guess I'm assuming that there are men out there who might have done that, but I'm just not that guy. I mean, then again, they don't know me, so I get it, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those you can never be too careful, so you just you just want to know and be sure.
Yeah. With women who are lesbians and they're married, like, well, I don't think they'll want me there. Like they don't want men. I mean, maybe my mom is a friend, but I don't think they would want me as a co-parent. Like, what the heck? Like, I mean, they already have a partner. Why the hell would they need an addition?
Yeah.
I don't see that really happening. With some lesbian women, I become just more of a friend. Maybe I'm like sort of like uncle figure, and I might meet their children and just visit them.
That's kind of cool. How do you feel about like meeting the children?
Yeah, I feel that I want to get to know them personally and just to see how they grow up to be. Maybe see what sort of similarities we have. Physically, maybe in interests. I want to know what kind of books that they'll be reading, and later on, maybe I might see something about me in them, I guess.
I was wondering, what does like an agreement look like between you
the agreement.
and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you see like a sperm donor and recipient contract, they look very similar. There might be some variations here and there, but often you find like certain things say that the party acknowledges the donor provides a sperm for the purposes of said artificial insemination, because at least legally speaking, it's supposed to be artificial. That's what it's expected. I mean, I pretty much I sign this contract because I guess it makes them feel better. I mean, if it makes them feel that they are in control, it's kind of a way to like really make it clear that I'm only the biological parent, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, it says I put my name where I'm referred to as donor, and then the recipient puts her name there, and then the partner, the donor is said to agree to provide his sperm for the purpose of artificial insemination. This is, of course, the law with regards to donors. It only applies to artificial insemination, because technically natural insemination it opens a chance for the woman to demand parental rights and responsibilities. But I'm thinking that if they're married, though, then the child would be within the marriage. I think if the woman's single, though, she's not married, then it's possible that she could still come after the man and say, hey, I want you to pay custody.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that.
It also protects you from,
it does.
Them, maybe claiming that you had assaulted them or
anything,
them trying to get money out of you in some way.
Yeah. And of course, like I said, it's assumed that's artificial because, sexual intercourse is associated with not being a donor, because it's not really considered to be the legitimate form of insemination. Like, it's not really how things are done normally. It's just not it. As far as the law books go, that doesn't really stop me from doing it naturally, though.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how that would still make people want to be very careful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would care is that the woman's clear that I'm not the legal father,
right,
and that she doesn't have any STIs. So I don't want to get infected, because if I do get infected with something that's not curable, well, guess what? The whole thing is shut down. Like, it's over. So that would be quite depressing if that were happen. I would not want to have like HIV, for example. That'd be horrendous. I mean,
everybody gets checked out then, right? So you get checked out, they get checked. Everybody, has their papers, and it says that everybody's clean and they're okay.
Yeah, at least once a year for me. But I probably would do it like every 3 or 6 months, because I want to be up to date. So no custody. No, that's good for me. I'm good with being free from those things. And so, yeah, the donor complete counseling, just for the clinic. Well, I mean, that could be done in a clinic, but as is often the case, I don't really do it in a clinic. I usually do it, at their house or at a hotel, or I do it where I simply give it to her and she uses it in the car. So that, different ways that it could be done. If she wanted to do it the natural way, well, it would have to be a hotel or her house. For example. With AI, it's a lot easier and quick. But of course, like I said, she would need to have a soft cup and a syringe. She had to have those things to do it properly. So yeah, this contract very much it's quite clear. I mean, the recipients I've met, none of them have ever led me to suspect, oh, this person might come after me. No, I think these women are just normal, and that they just want to, have a new baby. Maybe they want to grow the family. Often they have a partner of their own. They're married, so yeah, they're settling down, and they want to be parents. So yeah, I'm just not really that worried. Like I said, I only signed the contract for their sake because I just presumed that they wouldn't want me to have custody and whatnot. So, but yeah, it seems to be just goes by smoothly. Usually I just talk with them by video chat. We kind of become acquainted. They know a little bit about me, and I know a little bit about them. And, they might ask me, what sort of job I do, and I told them what I do for a living, and they might even tell me about I guess their heritage. I guess maybe they want to know, about my ethnic background.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was wondering too, like you said, everybody, when they go on the websites and they go on Facebook and they kind of choose, right, the donor that they want. What do you think makes them choose you?
Maybe they could say that, they might think I look pleasing to that, I guess. They might like my educational background. Maybe they just like talking to me, I guess. They thought I was a friendly and talkative person, I guess. So yeah, they might like my personality. And of course, I'm also taller than average, so that's also one thing that they might like.
I think what you're doing for different families is really admiring, and one reason we wanted to speak with you is to show a different side to sperm donors and a different way of doing sperm donations.
I would say that what I'm doing is not for every man. I do know that there are certain men that are quite uncomfortable with having children that they might never meet, and so I do love doing this for women, single couples, women of all orientations. I don't really care, or racial, or for otherwise, or socioeconomic, as long as the woman's mentally stable, that isn't financially burdened, living comfortably, loving, and quite willing and able to be a parent. I'm all good. I'm all there to help them make it happen, make them have a baby of their own.
It seems like you're still, getting the word out there. Or in your case, sperm out there.
Yeah.
So people know about, your work. And so it seems like word of mouth, the online platforms. So, yeah.
And some recipients that I've helped, some of them know each other. I think right now I have about maybe 11 pregnancies that have helped make happen, and
Great. Wow.
and maybe more will come this month. So that's good. Awesome. And I'll continue on doing this. So yeah, I very much just love to donate to women. Yeah,
I'm sure they're very appreciative of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thanks.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being on the show with us today, John.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So what are the positives and negatives of going through a direct donor versus a sperm bank? Well, for one, Going through a direct donor allows you to have more choice in the type of donor you would like, and you wouldn't have to go through the various hoops that one does to be a recipient at a sperm bank.
You know, you probably have a contract, you know, with that specific person, and there's no middleman. So what that means also is there's no kind of control, meaning you have to trust that that person's not going to go to court and say, well, that's the father of my kid. You have to have a lot of trust in people. So, like, it depends on it. You know, if you're doing NI or AI, especially with NI, you know, you have to understand and respect the boundary that you have donated the sperm in a natural insemination, and that this is not your kid. But then as a recipient, you then need to also be on the same page and say, okay, but this is not the father of my child.
Yeah, I think the legal ramifications are very complicated. What if, you know, the recipient wants to ask for child support all of a sudden? I mean, you don't know what you're getting if you go through the direct donor route. Whereas a sperm bank, they think about things that maybe you normally wouldn't have thought of in terms of like the legal ramifications.
Welcome back to Bound by the Cloak. Here is part 2 of today's episode.
Now it's time to hear Nate's story. Hi, Nate. Thanks for being on the show today.
Of course, yeah. Happy to be here.
Could you just introduce yourself?
My name is Nathan Mays from Bryant, Arkansas. So I moved to LA a couple months ago. I moved in with my biological father, Michael Rubino, down here to pursue my dreams as an actor and also as an artist, a traditional painter, trying to kind of follow in the footsteps of my dad on the art side. He's a successful artist in Los Angeles. And so first time we met in 2016, he said he's going to get me to move to LA. And I'm like, absolutely not. No way I would ever move out west. I'm a small town Arkansas guy, but here I am, loving it, enjoying the process.
Your relationship with your dad is really unique. Can you tell us about that?
So I'm a product of artificial insemination. I've known this my entire life. My mom was always transparent about that. Me and my sister, full sister, a young age, we knew that. I did not know I could contact my sperm donor until I was 18 years old. A senior in high school. Before then, we were told that we would not be able to contact him. That was just the knowledge that the delivery nurses, the doctors, had when I was born. Finding out that there was a possibility of me getting to know him, I didn't know that was ever a thing until I was 18, and my high school art teacher encouraged me to seek him out. We found out through a profile on my donors, just a sheet of paper, that he was an artist. I've always been an artist. I've always loved art, way before I even knew that my biological father was an artist. So that kind of kicked off my interest to find him. And that was a long, frustrating, annoying process. I sent him a letter. And once he got my letter, he instantly responded. And we just kind of hit the ground running after that. Also found out that a lot of my siblings, 24 and counting, Some of them contacted Michael when they were really young. Their parents did. So yeah, the whole knowledge of me not being able to know him turned out to be false. But it also kind of makes sense because artificial insemination in Arkansas, at least at the time I was born, 1998, was very rare. It is still pretty rare, especially in the South, my understanding. So I'm guessing that's why we were told we wouldn't be able to contact him.
And when you say we were told that we couldn't contact him, who told you that?
Yeah, so my sister and my mom. My mom was a single mom for most of my life. She's amazing. We were told that by the delivery nurses, and I believe the doctors told my mom, and that was actually their knowledge. Because my mom still communicates with the nurse that delivered me. They're good friends. And so when my mom told her, hey, my son Nathan is flying out to California to meet his dad, she was like super surprised. And I mean, she was also really happy that I got to do that. But yeah, she had no idea that was a possibility. They honestly said, no, you probably can't contact. But I did contact the California Cryobank when I wanted to contact my dad, because that's the only way I knew how to get his contact information. And I was told through 2 long weeks of calling back that he wanted to remain anonymous, which turned out not to be true. Anytime one of my siblings or a parent of one of my siblings reached out to find my dad, he was always so supportive. I mean, he loves that. He loves making connection with his children. So,
why do you think the cryobank, responded that way initially with saying that he didn't want to be contacted?
I'm not sure. I have my theories, and me and my dad talked about this, because they don't want donors to feel, financially responsible for their offspring that reach out to them. Maybe it's a business scheme. Maybe it has to do with a bunch of kids reaching out to their donors and then donors being scared and don't want to donate. Because according to what I know about most sperm donors, most of them do want to be anonymous. A lot of them are college guys trying to get some extra cash. So I'm very, very blessed to have a donor who we're close enough as far as our relationship goes that I reference him as dad. I call him dad. I'm very blessed to have a donor that wanted to reach out to me. And not only that, but he wanted to build a relationship. So that's very important to him. And it became very important to me, even though I never dreamed I would have that opportunity. Pretty special to me.
What made you really want to meet Mike, your dad?
I was just very intrigued to know who he was. It all happened so fast because, like I was saying, I never really worried about meeting my sperm donor. I never thought I could. I mean, I had a wonderful family, had a great sister, great mom, just so many great people in my life. And so once I found out I can meet my biological dad, I can fly out and meet him and start a relationship with him. That all kind of happened in the span of a week. The emotions were definitely pretty heavy. And it was just really exciting. I was really excited to meet someone that shared my genes. And I did not realize in the slightest that it would leave such an impact as it did, a positive impact on my life. Yeah, it was heavy emotions leading up to that day, some nerves in there, but more exciting than anything. I met him for the first time. I remember walking in the airport in Los Angeles where he lives. He invited me to come see him. And we laugh about this because I was a little confused. I saw him for the first time, thought he's supposed to be taller because there was a slip up on my donor profile that said he was 6'4", and he's 5'10" on a good day. So so it was a little funny to find that out.
So he was shorter than you expected.
He was shorter than I expected, but he was way he was way despite him being shorter, I can't brag about my dad more. He's an incredible guy.
Well, it's interesting that you had more excitement than nervousness when you were about to meet him, because it could have gone anyway, right? You could have met him and you could have just not really liked him. Did you ever think about that, like as a possibility?
Yeah, I did. I guess I can go ahead and say, so I received an email after I wrote him a letter, and I could already tell that he was super kind through his email, just how he worded it. He said he was just thrilled that, I'm his son and I have a sister, and I could just see his excitement through his words. So I could already tell he's a pretty cool guy, and pretty open-minded to all of this. And of course, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. He was very transparent about who he was, and I was too. In my initial letter, I referenced that I was a strong believer in Christ. Christianity has always been an important factor in my life. So he was also transparent and said that he wasn't. Being from small town Arkansas, I was probably a little nervous just because I was like, okay, we have different belief structure. We might have some different political structures. How is that going to work out? Because, in a world that we live in where there's just so much division, so much hate, so much animosity towards each other for the slightest disagreement, that was probably something that I was a little bit nervous with. But, honestly, that faded away within the first couple hours of us meeting. Instantly hit it off. Yeah, he's super easy to talk to. And I didn't realize the impact it made on me until later on. When I met him, it was like this missing part of me. I kind of found it in my dad. Part of me, I could relate to him and he could relate to me. Yeah, I just saw so much of myself in him, some traits that I picked up, throughout my life, or just who I am as a person. I saw someone who I could relate to.
So how long has it been since you actually first contacted him?
That was in 2016. So about 6 years. And a lot has happened since then. Graduated high school in 2017. He flew out to Arkansas to see me graduate. I laughed because that was his first time in Arkansas, and he expected Arkansas to be like the Deliverance movie.
Oh, really?
And he did. He was pleasantly surprised. Wow. Arkansas is not as terrible as that. So yeah, and he's come for family Thanksgiving. I should also mention he's come to nearly all my siblings' graduations, which is
amazing.
Yeah, it's really amazing. He's and he came to my sister's wedding. He's come to family Thanksgiving a few times. So he makes it a priority to watch his kids grow up if they want to. Some families aren't that into it, and which is completely fine. Everyone has their different family dynamic. It can be super strange at first, but my family was all for it. We were like, yeah, we want to know Michael. Bring him to Thanksgiving. We'll give him the full Southern treatment. So that's been fun.
So he's kind of, in a sense, fully integrated into your family. He comes over for holidays and sort of big events.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. All my family, aunts and uncles, cousins, they know Mike, and he's definitely a big part of our family.
Why don't you tell us, what similarities that you and Mike have?
I find something new every day, I feel like. But no, as far as the big similarities, the main motivator for me reaching out to him was art. He's a successful portrait painter in Los Angeles. He's been painting for over 40 years, I guess. And he's a freelance artist, graduated from Berkeley. And so that was the main motivator. I've always loved art since I was super young. And what's really interesting is I've always been drawn to portraiture. as I was growing up in high school. Can't wait to keep painting with him, and gotten to do murals together, Beverly Hills area. And and he's come to my art shows. That was a big similarity that we share. There's a lot of like little personality traits. We're both kind of crazy, weird about animals. We love animals. We've had all kinds of crazy pets through the years. As far as eating habits, we're pretty much alike, but he's a pescatarian and I really like meat. So it's 50-50 on that. But yeah, I think our personalities just really have always just really vibed well together. Both pretty, we like to keep it interesting. We're pretty funny people. I feel like we joke around a lot.
You mentioned that when you first met him, he was shorter than you expected. What was the first thing that you said to him or he said to you?
Well, he immediately reached out his arms to hug me, and which I was all about because I mean, I'm a hugger. And so he was just instantly very kind, very welcoming. And I think we were both a little bit nervous. I mean, we had to be. After I got through the shock of, oh my gosh, this is my biological dad, this is half of me. Then it was just a normal, day. Went to Santa Monica, Venice Beach area, and we just walked the beach for, I think, hours and just kind of talked about our lives, our family, how we were raised, what makes us happy in life. Just like, I think we could have probably talked for 6 hours straight, just getting to know each other. And we were both just genuinely curious about the other one. And it was just very fulfilling. The more I knew about him, the more he knew about me. Yeah, relationships are important. And he definitely helped me realize how important building relationships with people that, maybe have a different belief structure as me, maybe come from a different background, but nonetheless, we're all just kind of people struggling in this world.
With your spirituality, your belief. Yeah, how do you explain this in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, for me personally, I believe everything happens for a reason. I really do. I know that that's a loaded concept, but I feel extremely blessed in my life. I've just had the pleasure of meeting so many incredible people who have influenced me in so many ways. And one of the biggest contributor is my dad. And so for me, a lot of people say, oh, it's luck, it's pure coincidence. But because of the huge impact it's made on me and just where I am today, I'm literally living in California with my sperm donor. For me personally, it is a matter of spirituality, divine concept of why I'm here. So, which is really funny because polar opposites, me and my dad in that regard. But nonetheless, like it matters in a way, but it doesn't, because that has never gotten in the way of us building a relationship, us just communicating and being friends, buddies, father and son, whatever you want to call it.
Before you mentioned that you had 24 known siblings, how many of them have you met, and what's your relationship like with them?
I've met most of them. I've met 21 or 22. My full sister, Rachel, I've been with her all my life. We have the same donor. She was just in the freezer for 3 years. But I met my half brother, Jake. He was the first half sibling that I met because he lived with Mike. So Mike met Jake, was really young, I believe like 5. And Jake's mom, single mom, they were like, hey, you want to understand? They're like, hey, you want to get a house together and raise our son? And so that's what they did. And I met Jake. Loved Jake to death. We hit it off. I met a ton of them. I never expected to build relationships with my half siblings. Just like it really wasn't on the radar for me to build a relationship with my sperm donor. That's just funny how things work out. But that's been a huge blessing, getting to know my sisters and my brothers. We're really the best of friends. And I'm sure genetics plays a part in that, but I value friendships a lot, and especially the ones that I invested in the most. And definitely some of my half siblings are some of the most important people in my life.
Do you and your siblings ever kind of like get together for events or anything? Or are you guys, just kind of doing your own thing?
I get together with them every chance I have. 2021 in May, I got to meet my brother Nick, Dylan, sister Gina, Maggie. Oh gosh, there's so many others. Xander. Anyway, you get the picture. A lot of siblings. My dad was like, "Hey, found some new kids," and so he was like, "I'm going to go to New York and meet them. Do you want to come with?" I was like, "Absolutely." So we went to New York for a few days and got to meet them and had just a blast.
So you're like traveling the world. I mean, the US, which is very different, right? You said.
I could say the world too. I got to take my sister Danielle from Grand Cayman. She got to come on a evangelical mission trip with me a couple of years ago in Lithuania, and that was super fun for us to share that experience. So yeah, I get to say I took one of my half siblings across the world.
One big happy family and just trying to bond over different things. So, what are the reactions that people have when they find out about your story?
Oh, I get a mix of reactions. It's really funny. I get a lot of people that are like nervous to ask questions about it because they think it's like out of my comfort zone or something. I'm like, no, please ask me. Like I'm an open book. It's not a traditional way of being created, but it's me. It's just how I was born. And so, I had a job in orientation last week, and they said, make sure you have a really good fun fact to tell everybody. So I stood up and I was like, yeah, my name's Nathan Mays, and my parents never had sex. And yeah, everybody starts laughing. Some people are like, what? What is he talking about? Like mouths dropping, hit the floor. And I'm like, it's funny to hear some people's reaction. Some people have never heard of it before, so they have so many questions about it. And some people know what it is. But yeah, it's always an interesting conversation starter. I definitely don't tell people right off the bat that I'm a product of artificial insemination unless they really start asking about about my parents and stuff. So
you've talked about, Mike as being your dad, sperm donor. Like, what are the different ways or that, you refer to him or that other people refer to him in this situation, because you guys are so close?
I call him Mike, or I call him Pops. That's just something that, I don't know, I just started calling him. Most of my siblings probably call him Mike because some of my siblings, they have a dad, very present dad in their life that raised them. Most of the time that was an issue of the dad wasn't able to have kids of his own. And so some of the moms of my siblings, that's why they did artificial insemination. But their dad, their non-biological dad, but they're the dad that raised them, that's the only dad that they have in their life. You can refer to him as bio dad, I guess. Some people say that. So yeah, it's all over the place. A lot of my siblings have two moms, and so that's why they did the artificial insemination route. He's Michael, Pops, dad, bio dad, anything but sperm daddy. We do not refer to him as that. We've heard that joke a couple times. So yeah, anything but that.
So where does your mom fit in all of this? From what you're saying, she seems to be pretty supportive, which is amazing.
She's so supportive. She's been all about this since day one. I don't know if it meant more to her than it did me when I met him for the first time. My mom is, first of all, she's the most loving person on the planet to me. So, and as different as my mom and Michael are, they're best friends, which is special. But yeah, they're really good friends. They hit it off. They're also just two pretty easygoing people, easy to get along with. Yeah, my mom has been supportive of this of day one.
In terms of this process, it seems like sperm banks have strict policies around connecting kids and donors. So, what do you think about that? If you had to speak to a sperm bank, what would you tell them about their policies and practices?
Probably should have, and maybe I will still reach back out to the sperm bank and said, hey, you really should have been more helpful because they weren't. Because it could have gone both ways. It could have gone negatively. And when they told me your dad wants to be anonymous, he does not want to be contacted. If I would have taken that to heart and not pressed it anymore, then I wouldn't know my dad today, maybe. So yeah, I feel for other kids out there that are trying to reach out to their sperm donor. And I hope that that's not a situation, but it very likely could be, from my experience, is reaching out to a sperm donor that does want to be contacted and they just get shut down. So I hope that I was a rare commodity at that, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not. Somebody needs to, that was, 6 years ago. So maybe their policy has changed a little bit, but I have no idea. The California Cryobank is the number one sperm bank in the country. So I think that they're more supportive in that regard, but I don't know. All I have is my experience, and my experience could have been a lot better. We're all over the place as far as my siblings and how they initially reached out to my donor. Some of them, it was through Ancestry.com. Some of them, it was through 23andMe. I think some of them, there was a donor registry site that you go on there specifically to find your donor. Of course, my dad is on everything he knows about because he loves being contacted. And so my dad has reached out to a couple himself on like 23andMe and stuff like that. And so, yeah, there's so many different ways that my siblings found him. It's really interesting. And there seems to be a new sibling every year or two these days. We all say that could be in the hundreds. Probably not, but we joke about that just because every time he finds out he has a new kid, he's like, all right, yeah, that's it. Like, they told me this will be it. But I think the sperm bank told him that he would be done like years ago. And so they're not using his sperm anymore, but there always seems to be another kid, in their early 20s that pops up. So we just add them to the list.
I was wondering too. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Delivery Man.
I've heard all about, you know what? I'm going to watch it tonight because I've heard so many jokes about that movie. I have seen all the horror documentaries on sperm donors and all the nastiness and like illegal stuff that, is never supposed to be. Anyway, that's besides.
No, yeah. That's
I did. Some people ask me, it's like, did you see that documentary? It's like, yes, that's not at all my story, right?
Yeah. It's unfortunate because all that negative, illegal, unacceptable stuff gets so much more attention.
It can definitely deter people away. And it's funny looking back. When my mom went to schedule an appointment and pick out a donor, she did not do so in hopes that we would connect one day. And in my opinion, I don't think any mom should go into that expecting that, because odds are they're not going to be able to. And so it's just been like a huge, I don't even want to call it a bonus. I feel like that doesn't do it diligence. It's huge that I have all these siblings. I've connected with all these siblings, and just that my dad is just such a great guy.
I'm curious about if you've ever tried to connect with other kids who have been, conceived through artificial insemination to find different stories or.
Yeah, Shawnee, that's probably something I should do. Absolutely. But I really haven't, to be honest. I don't really know how I would go about that, but I'm sure that there's tons of sites, like some of my siblings, they're familiar with some of those sites that allow you to connect with your donor. So yeah, but I've only met, I think, 2 people in my lifetime that are artificial insemination. And both of those 2 individuals did not contact their donor, which is interesting. I was like, you really should. But I also hesitate to say that because if I encourage them to, and then, their donor wants to be anonymous, then it can kind of be a let. But yeah, I don't meet a lot of people with the same story as me. I think it is getting more prominent, definitely. back in the late 90s when my mom did it, they pretty much turned her down when she asked to be artificial inseminated the second time to have my sister. And that was because late 90s, in that time, they were basically like, single mom doesn't need more kids, which is really sad. But it's true. That's what she was told. Yeah, she was almost like completely denied the procedure. Actually, a matter of fact, she was denied at first. I think she kept pressing, and finally they agreed to do it. But I think that's much different nowadays in the culture we live in. It's less likely for someone to deny you a child.
And pretty cool that it was by the same dad too.
And it's really funny because me and my sister's my best friend, but we could not be more different people.
Did Mike always want to have contact with his biological children? Was that like part of his original thought in donating?
Originally, he never knew that was going to lead to anything. I could even go as far as, his mindset towards that could have been similar, if not the same as me, and that just not being a factor. Originally, when he was married at the time, his wife couldn't have kids, so they just wanted to give, that gift of childbirth to other families. That was, to my understanding from our conversations, that was his only motive of doing it. So later on, when he found out he was divorced and he found out he could meet all these kids, and from what he's told me, it's been one of his biggest joys in life. So yeah, to answer your question, at first, no, he didn't think that would lead to anything. And now here he is, me and him both kind of just reaping the benefits, and happily, we're just really, really glad where we are today.
Would you ever want to be a sperm donor?
I've thought about that, and I don't think I'm anywhere in a place right now in my life where I could commit to that. Being myself, I know I have an idea of how much of a commitment that is, and I had someone in college, buddy in college, like, I think I'm going to be a sperm donor and get a bunch of money. I definitely don't want to ever see the kids 20 years down the road. I was like, you should not do that. Absolutely not. And so for me, it's like, I think that would be a really cool thing to do for mothers that don't have another way of having children. But I wouldn't do it unless, obviously, my wife would have to be okay with it. But the biggest thing is, unless I was fully ready to invest in whatever, 10, 20 kids and be a part of their lives if they wanted me to be. So to answer your question, I have no idea. Probably not, because I have no idea where I'll be in the next 10 years.
For you, if you're a sperm donor, or if you ever do become one, there's like no thought that you would even be anonymous. You would want.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
I would definitely want, if I ever did that, I would definitely want to be as great as my dad has been through all this.
You and your dad have definitely benefited from your relationship. You guys have a beautiful relationship, and even the other siblings and your mothers, everybody. It's like a giant, big, happy family. I wonder, what are your thoughts on other people, I guess, seeking that same relationship, or do you think it would benefit people to reach out potentially? Not that it would work for everybody, but do you think that that's something that could work for other people as well?
There's no harm in trying. I think people would be doing themselves a disservice if they didn't reach out. Because, for example, I didn't think anything would come out of it. I had very low expectations. Maybe that's important for someone in this situation like that, to go in it having low expectations so they're not, let down. But I definitely think give it a try, because it could be life-changing. So everybody needs to know where their genes come from, and I don't know other people's situations, but I couldn't imagine not having some form of curiosity. But everybody's different. I do have some siblings who I have never met, and I probably won't ever meet, just because they're not interested in any of it, and that's completely okay. That's them. That's what they want. So,
have you ever thought that this would be your life?
No, not at all. I mean, definitely wouldn't be in California. I mean, I don't think I would. There's so many things that have happened because of that initial contact with my dad. And, I go back to everything happens for a reason, divine intervention. But yeah, it's been a crazy, wild journey, and very, very thankful. My dad is a granddad finally. My sister, Rachel, had kids a year and a half ago, and she was the first one out of my 24 siblings to have kids. And so identical twin boys. And so my dad got to fly out and meet them, and even got to babysit alone with them, which I think, that's the first newborns he's ever really mingled with. And so my sister and brother-in-law have come out to California. And so that's just a whole nother thing. Like, my dad, I know he never in a million years would have thought that he would be building relationships with his grandkids of his, offspring. So yeah, it's been really cool too.
And you're an uncle.
I'm an uncle. Yeah. All fun, no work.
Really?
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to change the diapers. I can just get them in trouble and have fun, and that's great.
Yeah.
Just get them gifts and
yeah,
that's it.
Get them.
Just be
get
the
them
fun one.
They can terrorize my sister with. I don't have to be there. I think it is an important message to get across that we're both just so supportive of each other's philosophical beliefs and just who we are innately, and that's just something I really like to get across to people. Is he's very supportive of, me going to church on Sundays and doing that type of stuff. And I'm very supportive of what he believes in. That's just one of the main things. I've been talking way too nice about him. I'm going to really hear it from him. I should probably make fun of him or something. I guess I did say he was short.
Yeah.
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 That usually stings a little bit. Somebody calls you short. So.
Yeah. You were like, he's only
5'10". I do remember he was driving me home first time we met, and I think I just skimmed his donor profile, and I read that he marked down there, which he doesn't even remember putting this, but he marked down there that he was doing 75 push-ups a day at one point, because it stereotypical question asked him about, his fitness level. And I misread that as 750. And so I asked him, and, I said, yeah, it said that you were 6'4". It also said that he had strawberry blonde hair, and his hair was brown, dark, just like mine. And then, so that's number 2 off the list. And then I said, and didn't you do 750 push-ups a day? And then his eyes got super big, and he was like, oh crap, are you sure I'm your dad?
That's funny.
And so, yeah, I'm glad we're laughing about that now. It was like a fake laugh at the time, and then we were like, oh, this could be really awkward if,
could you imagine?
Flew across the country, and turns out he's not my dad. But we did a DNA test, and yeah, it all worked.
So is your dad, yeah. Also, to be fair, 75 is a lot per day. I can't even.
That is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
He couldn't do that now. He might have fudged the numbers too. I don't know if he did. I'm throwing some shade at him. That'll be good.
See, yeah, there we go.
Well,
we like to joke with each other.
Yeah, I mean the humor, right? Do you feel unconditionally loved?
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. If I didn't, I definitely wouldn't be living with him, because that was a big step for me. I was fresh out of college, and it wasn't like I'm going to go, live with my dad. It was like, I'm going to have a new roommate that I get to keep building a relationship with, and basically make up for the first 18 years of my life. And, a lot of my siblings, they were really lucky. They got to know him when they were super young. I think the youngest, it was a sister and brother. They were the first ones to contact him, and they were super young. I want to say under 3. but I didn't have that opportunity. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm making up so many, lost times, just making new memories with my dad. So yeah, that unconditionally loved. Yeah, for sure.
Kind of interesting and ironic because artificial insemination, but there's nothing artificial about your relationship with him. So
yeah, that's so well said too.
That was a good one, Chandi. That was good.
I like puns.
It's really good, right? Yeah, it's very natural. I'm not a clone. I have had to explain that to people going that they had no idea what artificial insemination is. If y'all were to interview me and my dad and you didn't know our situation, you could definitely see the similarities. And some people would definitely think maybe cloning was involved, but it's nothing like that. We just happen to be similar. And the reasons for that, who knows? Genetics, God, yeah, luck, coincidence. Everybody would have their own opinions on that. I know me and my dad. So, but it's interesting nonetheless.
I mean, I think it's great that you're getting your story out there. Me personally, I wouldn't have known that this is something that existed and until I spoke with you and tried to understand that this is something that can be normal if people want it. Both sides want it.
For sure. I've always loved getting my story out there just because I think it can say a lot to our culture. But yeah, thank you so much for just being interested in the story. There's been, if anyone were to actually sit down with me, my dad, or some of my other siblings and really talk about the impact it's made on our lives, it's a pretty cool story, I think.
Yeah.
And I think, just to simplify it, even if it was the takeaway of it was the connection, the love that it's brought to me and so many others, like that in itself is enough to spread the word and to be interested in it, I think.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's a unique family, and there's no one particular way, that a family should look, right? They're all different. And I think that each family is beautiful, and your family is beautiful. It's amazing that you guys are all able to connect. And I mean, maybe you'll find more, and it'll grow even more, because I think it's great to have those kinds of relationships. They're really unique and definitely something to hold on to. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us and speaking with us. It was a pleasure. We had a lot of fun talking to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks y'all so much. Y'all been great host. And I haven't talked about my family's dynamic situation in a long time. So to this extent, so I'm maybe ever actually. So yeah, thank you for asking these questions and getting my story out there.
Thank you. Thanks, Nate.
Thank y'all so much.
The world of sperm donation can be more complicated and complex than you'd ever had imagined. The implications of donating privately versus at a bank. What about the effects of knowing and contacting biological fathers, for better or for worse? And how sperm banks determine criteria for who is and isn't allowed to donate sperm or be a recipient.
Some families have to go through a lot of hurdles to have a kid or kids. And when we hear about sperm donation or sperm donors, you hear about the aftermath. You hear about a child being born, but you don't hear about the process. So for us, it was really important to hear about the process and how difficult it is for so many families out there to have a child. We'd like to thank John and Nate for sharing their incredible stories and experiences with us.
If you like what you hear, let others know. Spread the word. Like, subscribe, and follow. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another new episode. Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.